So Games Workshop's just revealed 3 new Warhammer 40k value box sets, potentially very interesting times if you happen to play Space Marines or Chaos. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're taking a look at a few new Games Workshop offerings, 3 new box sets focused around the Arcs of Omen and their boarding action game mode. Games Workshop does seem to be keeping the new stuff coming thick and fast at the moment. There was quite a lot going on last week between the boarding actions release, Abaddon, and the Space Marine Battle Forces. We know we've got Garden World Eaters in the pipeline, and now it looks like there's a few surprise value box sets popping up for the Space Marines and the Chaos. On this latest reveal on their Warhammer community webpage, it seems that we've got 3 sets, 2 of them smaller boarding patrol forces for Space Marines and Chaos Marines respectively, and then a great big Balefleet Battleforce box, looking like it's basically the equivalent of the Battle Forces for Christmas and the Space Marines, but for Chaos. From the look of these, I would strongly suspect that these are going to be limited edition releases, basically one release wave, and then when they sell out they're gone. The boarding patrol box sets look like they're themed at the Arcs of Omen campaign, and the Battle Force box looks like it's in a similar sort of vein to the ones around Christmas. First up, the boarding party box sets look like they're aimed to be basically a quick start set for Warhammer 40k Arcs of Omen boarding actions. The new 40k but indoors campaign modes that I talked about the rules of over the weekend, both of those are aimed to be roughly 500 points, though one is under and one is over. There's one with a Space Marine Gravis Captain leading a bunch of intercessors into battle, and then one with Abaddon the Despoiler himself leading a bunch of Chaos Space Marines and cultists. The two offerings don't feel enormously equal perhaps. The Chaos Space Marine one looks like it's got a lot more valuable models in the box, and it also costs a fair few more points as well. I feel like the way that these things are branded for the boarding patrol forces, there is at least a reasonable chance that we might see more of these come out as the Arcs of Omen campaign progresses. I don't think it'd be out of the question to see equivalent box sets of these, maybe for different Imperial and Chaos armies, depending on who is fighting in the narrative. My guess would be for these that they'll probably be discounted similar to Combat Patrol box sets. I'm not sure whether the discount will be quite as generous as those ones, but if it is, then something roughly around £70, €90, or $120 might be a rough kind of price for them. Obviously though, that is a rough estimate, and they might cost different amounts. We'll look at the contents of them in just a second. The other offering is this Balefleet box. This one's a Chaos Space Marine box set, which looks like it's the equivalent to the Christmas or Space Marine Battle Force box sets that we've had very recently. This one seems to be a bit more of a simple offering, just basically one of Games Workshop's big bundle boxes. It does have some pretty interesting miniatures in it though. It's got the shiny new Demon Prince that only just got its original release, plus some possessed Terminators and a Helldrake. To go through the kits in just a bit more detail, first up we have the Space Marines Boarding Patrol box. The contents that you get in this one are the new Gravis Captain, the one with the 3 different loadouts and can take a Power Fist, Sword or Chainsword in his offhand, 5 Heavy Intercessors and 10 Assault Intercessors, in both times the multi-part plastic kit. These kits when added together would be around about £96, $163 or €136, and if you take Games Workshop's usual discounts at around about 30 to 40% off that, then you'd get the prices for my estimate above. In terms of the points of the models in the box, you get around about 390 points worth of Space Marines, maybe not the most enormous offering, but perhaps not so very dissimilar from Combat Patrol box sets. It is kind of interesting that these ones have really changed quite a bit based on Warhammer 40k's new points rebalancing. All the discounts and the free gear on the Space Marines to compensate from losing Armour of Contempt means that the contents of this box have dropped down from around about 475 points with some gear all the way down to 390. Kind of means that their balancing rules have conflicted with their product releases a bit. Means that you could do with one extra unit of some sort to make a full boarding patrol force, as usually in Arcs of Omen they're supposed to be around about 500 points. Overall it's not the hugest box set ever, it's an HQ and some troops, not really too much to say about that. If you particularly want any of these models, then this is a way that you could get them a bit cheaper. I suppose it's not too bad to see the Heavy Intercessors and the Gravis Captain discounted. Both of those are relatively recent miniatures. In the current 40k game, Heavy Intercessors just got a lot better, dropping all the way down to 23 points. Really quite tempting for some big chunky Gravis Marines, though arguably the others are just a little bit less hot now. The Gravis Captain probably isn't the single strongest, though the Assault Intercessors are fine enough if you're playing a melee chapter. Overall seems handy enough, though maybe not the most exciting Space Marine box set they've ever come out with. Next up we've got the Chaos Space Marine Boarding Patrol. This one contains Abaddon himself, 10 Chaos Space Marines, which are all included apparently despite not being pictured on the cover. The box set does list 31 miniatures in it, and Games Workshop say they are in their article, and then 20 of the relatively new cultists. Adding those kits together, you get a price from Games Workshop around about £130, $215, or €175. This is pretty significantly ahead of the Space Marine offering. It's around about £40 extra or $50. On top of that, the points cost in the box is 630 points, particularly as Abaddon went up by 50 in the updated balance change. And I'd say that compared with the Space Marine box set, if they wound up being priced just the same, the Chaos Space Marine 1 seems to be the far superior option. Again, it's kind of interesting that they come out with a box set that doesn't actually neatly fit into a boarding patrol. You need 500 points out of this. The only real workable solution after Abaddon's points increase will be him, 5 legionaries and 10 cultists. It looks like the forces that you get on the front cover of the box set would have fit 500 points before Abaddon went up a bit. It's kind of interesting that this one actually has more points in it than the actual Chaos Space Marine Combat Patrol box set. If you do want to pick up Abaddon and some cultists, it's a pretty awesome set, I think. Nice to have cool named characters available at a discount, even if it's only temporary. Overall, I think it looks pretty fun. Definitely an interesting option for adding a few extra models to a Chaos Space Marine army, particularly if the discount does wind up being okay. Maybe it does feel like it's perhaps a bit of a skewed type of list for a boarding actions game, though. I can't help but think it would be a bit of a strange game if you're basically taking a 500 point force and 350 points of those are all in one model. Maybe good for an expansion to a 40k army. I'm not sure it will be the most amazing experience in a boarding actions game though, unless you're just going on an Abaddon kills everything power trip. Finally, we've got the big Battleforce box, the Balefleet Battleforce. This one I think we do have a quite likely price available for it, £130, €170 or $210, in line with previous Battleforce box sets. From the amount and value of the models in the box, it does stack up pretty well against the Christmas and the Space Marine ones, so I feel it's unlikely that Games Workshop would change their price. In the box there's the new Demon Prince. He is quite a pricey guy at £47.50, €62.50 or $80. I think that's a fair bit north of what a lot of people might have been hoping for him. I will admit that the model is rather a cool one, but even with the amount of options that he has, it just seems a lot for a model of his size. For example, he costs the same as the enormous Helldrake that towers over him in this picture. That aside though, besides that you also get 10 Possessed, 5 Terminators, and a Helldrake in the box. I feel like having this many Possessed in the box really will be a big selling point to Chaos players. They're a rather good new kit that's both pretty well liked for the model looks and is pretty effective in game right now, and having 2 squads of them does mean that the Battle Force has a bit of a focus on them. It means that if you wanted those units, then yes, that's a good draw to get this, and the rest could be a bit of a bonus. Terminators are pretty competitive for Chaos right now, even though they happen to get their points nerf. They'll still be good for building around with their synergies and things. I feel like the model that might divide opinions as to whether or not they really like it in this box though is that Helldrake. The model is pretty fun looking, and it's even better if you just really enjoy painting trim. But in game it's been pretty weak for a good while now, and Games Workshop just handed it out another big fat nerf by making it start off the board turn 1. Overall, when you add up all these miniatures, if you did want every single model in the box, this one would cost you around £201, €262 or $340, and if priced the same as the other Battle Forces, it would mean around about a 35% discount. As for the points in the box, it adds up to around about 800, kind of middle ground for the Battle Force boxes, pretty much in line with the rest. It is kind of funny though that it's actually not really all that far north of the Chaos Space Marine Boarding Patrol box set, despite this one I think arguably feeling quite a lot bigger. I feel like a fair few Chaos players are likely to pick this one up though. Really nice to see some relatively new miniatures getting discounted like this. And I guess if you wanted a Chaos Space Marine Battle Force and Games Workshop disappointed you a bit at Christmas, then this offering looks like it's going to be on par with that. Let me know what you think though, which are your favourites out of these 3 forces. I think for me personally, the 2 Chaos box sets probably do a bit better than the Space Marine one. Both of them are pretty interesting in their own way. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. I'll certainly keep up with Games Workshop's news and rumours. Otherwise, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and that's how I can afford to spend the time to keep these videos coming quite so regularly and cover so many topics on the channel. If you are enjoying quite a bit, then any support is enormously appreciated. The link's down in the video description, and channel patrons do get a few perks, including seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.